Hey guys, welcome to my very first stream. This is like super new for me, but I'm very excited to do it. I'm joined by my friend Kieran. He's also a member of the Chelsea Social and does videos, and he also has an awesome gaming YouTube. So we're going to be talking about Chelsea. And how are you doing today, Kieran?
Yeah, I'm doing good. Thanks for having me on. Honoured to be on the first stream. Excited and nervous for tomorrow's game, I must say.
I know after that Fulham game, how are you feeling? Because that game made me really nervous. So what
I
did you
actually
think about
feel
the Fulham
worse.
game?
I was really confident going into that game, and I tried to always lower my expectations so I'm not always disappointed with the result. But with the Fulham game, I went into it super confident. I predicted goals. I predicted a 3-1 win. And it was anything but that. There was so much pressure. Every minute that the time was ticking on, I was like, oh my God, we're not going to win this game. But yeah, the boys come through. Mason Mount coming up clutch.
Yeah, I was really nervous, especially when we saw that starting lineup. And it was interesting to see that Frank decided to opt for experience rather than really who's been playing well or in form. And he felt that I think it highlights how much he really needed that must-win game. And he felt that he needed to rely on those senior players. But I think a positive maybe to draw from the Fulham game is that we probably will not see this lineup like too much, and I think that we probably will see a completely different team for the Leicester game. And at the end of the day, we did win that game. Thank you, Mason Mount. It was a beautiful goal from him, but I was so nervous, like you said, during that game. But I don't know. I'm still really nervous for Leicester. They're an incredible team, and they're competing for top four as well, and they're in a lot better form than we are. So how are you feeling about the game tomorrow?
Yeah, the lineup was a confusing one, wasn't it? I mean, we were all predicting it before the game, and it was nowhere near what any of us said it was going to be. But I think it was a calculated risk, which in the end has paid off. We got the 3 points. I don't really care how we get them, as long as we get them. That's the position we're in right now. I don't care how we win as long as we do. And I think, we're going into this Leicester game with players that we need to be fresh, that are now fresh, having had a rest or played limited game time. The only downside is N'Golo Kante, as we saw against Fulham, we can be exploited through the middle when he's not there. He does an incredible job for this team. He's the natural holding midfield player. We haven't gone out and signed a Declan Rice or someone else that can do that role naturally yet. So be interesting to see how we get on without him.
Yeah, I was going to ask you, so given that injury news, I had Conte as one of the first names on the clean sheet, even on the team sheet, even though he didn't have the best of performances against City. I'm hoping that was just like a one-time blip. But now that he's out, really, who do you play in that position? There's a couple of choices. You can go for Gilmore, who has looked a little bit stronger, I feel, but he's not as experienced as the likes of Jorginho or Conte or Kovacic.
So for me, the one with the legs is Kovacic. He's that one that's really going to do the box-to-box stuff. He hasn't been in great form himself. I don't think he played particularly well in the Fulham game. I don't think he was the worst of the bunch. I thought Jorginho looked really off the pace. He looked really leggy. He's not the quickest player anyway, but considering he hasn't played a great amount of games recently, I expected a little bit more stability from him. But the one who's shone, if you want to do it on merit, it has to be Billy Gilmore. But at the same time, the risk there is the lack of experience. But, how is he going to gain this experience if we don't give him these shots in these big games? We're going to need him for the future. He's so young, but what he does show is immense leadership qualities. For somebody so young, you can see him dictating the play, pointing to players, telling them what position they should be in. And I think he's confident right now. So I would go with Billy Gilmore.
I really love how vocal he is too. Like you said, that he's so young, he's not that experienced, but he's not afraid to really tell players how to get into position or where he's going to put the ball, or if they're not playing like that well. I think that he would perfectly give them a telling off, like he's just one of those really special players. And yeah, I have to agree. I think I would start Billy Gilmore, but my only worry is that Leicester is such a good counter-attacking side. They're just so fast. And in that 4-3-3 formation that we've seen, we've had so many gaps between that midfield and the defense. Even with N'Golo Kante in there, teams have been able to slice through us like butter, honestly. So my worry with playing Gilmour in a 4-3-3 is, are we defensive enough? Are we going to be able to handle the pressure that Leicester are going to put on us, especially from the counter-attack? What do you think?
Yeah, and I remember discussing something very similar against Fulham, which is obviously a very different challenge to what Leicester pose. I think if you're going to be without N'Golo, for me, I would like the two holding midfield players in there with the 4-2-3-1. But if we're going to stick with the 4-3-3, that's obviously the preference from Frank. It's obviously something we've been working on. I think you've got to go with legs in there. And for me, Gilmour, Kovacic and Mount will give you legs. And I think that is probably your best way to cover it. If not, for me, 4-2-3-1 and put two players there. Who those two players would be, I have absolutely no idea. Maybe Kovacic and Gilmour, maybe Kovacic and Jorginho if you want to go for experience again. But I didn't like the look of them in that game against Fulham. So it's a difficult one. And I sympathise with Frank, especially when he's under pressure.
Yeah. Exactly. It's really a must-win game because the rumors kind of quieted down a bit now that we beat Fulham, but it's not going to be quiet for long. If we lose against Leicester, I think that a draw would be not taken as badly because Leicester are a very, very good side. But if we do lose against this Leicester side, those rumors are going to come up again about him being sacked and everything. So I'm very nervous. I don't know the formation that I would play, honestly, because I don't really like how we look in a 4-2-3-1 either. If Jorginho is on the pitch, I think sometimes we look a little bit slow. And sometimes I feel that he just doesn't progress the ball and he's just making side passes or back passes. And it's kind of frustrating to watch. Like, it's more of a safe pass. And something that I really like about Billy Gilmour is that he gets his head up and tries to progress the ball. We know that Jorginho is capable of that, but I just haven't really seen it that much as of late. But another option I was thinking about, like, would you consider doing a 3-4-3 formation in this game, or is that way too defensive?
See, I like the 3-4-3. Obviously, we played something very similar under Antonio Conte and it worked, but that was something that was like ingrained in us. We've seen it a couple of times under Frank, Tottenham away when we got the victory, that was great. But I think taking us out of our comfort zone at this moment in time, I don't feel the team is in a confident enough space to try something new right now. The problem is, Leicester are going to line up with a 4-2-3-1. They're very well balanced. They have Yuri Tillemans and Ndidi, who do that holding role very, very well, and they completely stabilise the team. And then they have, Harvey Barnes, James Maddison, Mark Albrighton and Vardy in attack. So you're going to be up against it. I would literally go man for man. So I would play the 4-2-3-1 against Leicester just because we know that's what they're going to play. And then say, right, if you do your jobs man on man and you win your personal battle, this game is right there for the taking. If we go 4-3-3, I do think, they will outnumber us in midfield and we could be exposed, especially without N'Golo Kante in there.
Mm-hmm. Mm-hmm. Yeah, that's a really good point, because I think one of the main things that we've been seeing with the 4-3-3 is that the midfield will kind of push up, but the defense doesn't push up, and then it leaves this massive gap that teams are able to take advantage of very easily. And with one pass, you can take out the entire midfield and maybe get 2-on-2 with the defenders. And we've seen it time and time again because our full backs are usually so far up the pitch attacking. So I think that does make a lot of sense. Who that double pivot is going to be, we can get into starting lineup in a second, but we did get a good question that I wanted to ask you about. So I don't know how to pronounce the name, I'm sorry. Syria, sorry if
that's
I
Kieran.
totally
That's another way to spell Kieran.
Kieran, what?
Yeah, that is another way to spell Kieran.
Oh my God. That's nuts. Okay. Well, I was reading it like the Spanish way. My mind is just in like Spanish mode. So he has, what's happened to our fast attacking football that we saw against Southampton, I guess, and Leeds? What do you think?
I think it comes down to confidence. I think, we weren't, before that period, we hadn't really had this run of games that we had between Christmas and New Year. I think we fully believed in what we were doing. Everybody was still new and fresh and we were kind of hitting the ground running. I think now we've had a tricky patch. I think we're taking less risks. And I think you're seeing less creativity because we're taking less risks. We're trying to do the safer option. We're seeing the creative players do less and less of those through balls that might not necessarily come off. I think because they just don't want to give the ball away. And I think that's a big part of it. Football is such a confidence game. I know I said this on a previous stream that we spoke on together, but I really feel like confidence is the issue with Chelsea. And once we get it back, I think we'll be very, very dangerous. And it's only going to take 2 or 3 wins on the trot to boost us right up the table, and that's when the confidence will come back.
Yeah, I think if we beat Leicester, what do we go like 6? If we beat them, we close it to 6 points or 4 points or something like that. I don't have the table open. If we lose, it'll go to 9 points.
Yeah, it's absolutely
it really
crazy.
Is a big game. Yeah, it's so close though. It really shows. I was looking at the table yesterday, and I think we're maybe like 6 points off of 4th or something like that. So it really isn't this massive crisis, but I think that Chelsea's bad run of form has just coincided with other teams like Manchester United playing very well. But if we get the win, like, we would definitely do a major job in closing that gap. And like you said, I think that confidence is a massive issue. I don't know if there's like direction, because the players look really scared to lose the ball. They do. And it's something that I noticed, that we just do this like tiki-taking passing, that you just pass from one side through the center backs. And it seems that people are scared to even take shots. I remember, I think it must have been an FA Cup game where, I don't remember which game it was, but Emerson was playing, and I'm usually not his biggest fan, but I was actually very impressed with the way that he was just trying to take a shot from long, which is something that we've been missing. And even if you take it and it doesn't go in, maybe it rebounds or the goalie hits it weird and you can get that goal. So, I feel like you miss 100% of the shots you don't take. And for me, it's worse being so risk averse and holding onto the ball so much and just not creating anything with it. And I'm going on a bit of a rant, but it's just like frustrating to see players that like Pulisic, who's so creative and he just draws defenders to him, and he's not taking on people like he used to. He's not taking shots like he used to either. And even if he does take a shot, it's not going in. And I feel that if it was after the restart, he was so high in confidence, he would have scored anything, and now it just seems like he's overthinking everything as well.
It's exactly that. And I think this is coming down to the expectation that's on them. So, for example, the good players at the moment, like you say in the FA Cup game, Emerson was creating opportunities. Hudson-Odoi is the one creating opportunities. And it's all of the players that have no expectation. Billy Gilmore's been playing well. Since Pulisic became like the main guy in attack, he's kind of started to play safer. When he come back after Project Restart, he hadn't really, shown his true talent yet. We know what it is and we know it's there, but because the expectation wasn't on his shoulders to be the main attacking guy, he was just doing what he felt he needed to do, trying to showcase his skills. Now he knows that he's got this responsibility to drive us forward. We're starting to see the shackles go back on a little bit. And it's the same with Timo Werner. All right, he hasn't been at Chelsea long, but when you arrive for a big sum of money, the responsibility is already with you. Same with Kai Havertz. I thought Ziyech was quite poor against Fulham. I thought not poor in the sense that he wasn't trying or he wasn't giving effort, but I thought he was making lazy decisions. And what I mean by that is as soon as he got the ball, he was crossing it, or if he was within 25 yards, he was having a shot at goal. He has the quality to be better than that. And again, that comes down to expectations. But all of the players that we don't expect anything from are the ones that are playing with freedom and confidence and taking all the risk. So I do think confidence links all of our problems right now.
That's such a good shout, honestly. It's so true. I wonder, this is just something I've never thought of. It just popped into my mind. But I wonder if getting that number 10 shirt has kind of placed an extra added pressure onto Pulisic. Because just of the history that comes with it, and Hazard's shirt, and it's just such like a massive number and honor to wear. Like, maybe he's nervous about that too. I don't know, but
I read a crazy stat that is the second most sold shirt worldwide after Lionel Messi is Pulisic 10 this year.
I'm one of those shirts. I'm one of them.
But isn't that crazy? He's not like
I'm a statistic.
I know. I know he's like the poster boy of American football, if you will. And I know his branding is good. Christian Pulisic 10, it's really well known. But for him to be the second most sold shirt on the planet at this stage of his career is just insane.
Yeah, it's mind-boggling. But I think like in the US, like being American, we don't really have many players that make it so big, especially to a club like Chelsea. So everybody is like super proud of him. And I watch the games through the US, and you always hear the commentators saying like, "Oh, this is Christian Pulisic," blah, blah, blah. And even for the Champions League game, in the game description, it was like Christian Pulisic from the United States from Chelsea faces whatever. Like all of the branding and marketing is around him. So I just hope he gets back to it. He's one of my favorite players, if not my absolute favorite. So I really, really hope that he gets back to it and hopefully comes in good versus Leicester. You think that, what do you think the reaction is going to be if Chelsea drop points? Let's say draw or loss. What do you think it's going to be?
And yeah, I feel the same as I did before Fulham, and that even though Leicester's a tougher game, a draw is very similar to a loss as far as the fans take it. You know, our form over Christmas and New Year has put us in a situation now where we almost need to win these games. Games where previously we could have taken a point and gone away happy and tried to build on it. Now we can't afford, you know, even Leicester away would usually be a point gained, but I would see a draw as 2 points lost in our bid to try and get back amongst the title chasing pack. So the pressure is really on, you know. And speaking of pressure, all that marketing is probably not helping Christian Pulisic. You know, he's got the weight of a nation on his shoulders. That's probably it.
I know. It's so true. It's so true. Man, I just hope he gets back to it, because I don't remember which game it was that he scored, but it was after that massive like Timo run, and then he scored it to Pulisic, and he scored, and he just looks so relieved to have scored. So I feel like it's like building up again, and he needs to get a goal to his name. But I want to switch kind of to talk about this question that we got from Ace. Do you think Timo Werner isn't suited to playing against these low blocks? Should we start him only when we want to play on the counter?
For me, I think we have to keep faith with him. He's openly admitted that he underestimated the Premier League. You know, he said the defenders are bigger, faster, stronger than what they were in the Bundesliga. And I think the only way you're going to get better is to keep playing against this level of opposition. You know, if week in, week out, you are playing against these players every single day in training, eventually you will up your game to that level. And I think there is a slight overreaction to Timo's form. You know, what we're still seeing is him getting into the space. You know, he missed a horrible one-on-one at the end of that Fulham game. But what we're seeing is him getting beyond the last line of defence. If he puts that in the back of the net, then it's a completely different story. You know, Timo's back. But we've seen it so many times. The time that I will panic is when he stops getting these chances. Because if he's not contributing and he's not getting in the right positions, then we really have a problem. For now, he's getting in the right position. He's just snatching at his chances. But yeah, for me, I agree with what you're saying. He's great on the counter, and that's definitely when he's better suited. If Timo Werner starts, I think teams go, okay, he's quick. So is Pulisic, so is Cho, so is whoever on the wing. We're going to sit 5 yards deeper and deny him that space in behind the defence. And that's when he looks really out of place.
Yep, you're so well said, honestly, because I don't think his first touch has been great. I think it's something that he needs to work on. He's had like a lot of really good passes to him. We saw a really beautiful, beautiful, beautiful ball from Callum. My jaw hit the floor when I saw that. I couldn't believe it. And then Timo's first touch just completely let him down, and that was the chance ruined. And I felt really bad for him, because that chance that he had, the one-on-one opportunity for Fulham, I thought that was the perfect Timo goal to get him back on track. And I really thought that he was going to score that. But him having missed that, I think just shows how low on confidence he is. And it just goes back to what we were saying before. Confidence plays a massive part of the game, especially for a striker and a prolific striker like Timo Werner, who's used to scoring 30 goals or more in a season. And now he's on a goal drought. It must be really difficult to deal with. And he needs to get used to the Premier League, like you said, not having that space that he's used to having.
Yeah, and it's weird because that wasn't your typical Timo Werner finish. When I look back at, you know, great Timo Werner goals, and there's been plenty, there have been so many, he generally goes for power. And strikers that are low on confidence also generally go for power. So to see him try and finesse that against Fulham, you know, suggests that he does have faith in his own finishing ability still. But you can see his body language. It doesn't look right. He looks dejected. When the ball is played into him, his first touch, like you said, is uncharacteristically bad at the moment. I don't think he knows what to do. And that happens. You tend to overthink absolutely everything when things are not going well for you. So I think he can't make his mind up whether he wants to take it straight at goal, whether he wants to take the defender on, or whether he wants to cut back. I think he's probably playing these scenarios over and over in his mind while the game is going on, which means you're not acting on instinct. Yeah. And some of the best predatory strikers in Europe, they just act on instinct. You ask them about, goal scoring, and they said, it just comes naturally. I just knew where the goal was, and there it is. And that's not happening with Timo right now. But it will. I have faith.
It will. I don't feel with him like how I felt with Morata, that I just didn't see him ever getting back onto form. Like, I do think that there's a really, really good striker in there. I feel bad bringing up Morata, but, it's been years, but just to draw the parallel, I do think that Timo will get back into it, but just going through a rough patch, and, first year in the Premier League is difficult for everyone. I'm just going to go through some comments about if we draw against Leicester, it isn't bad, but we really do need to start building up on it. We're getting so many comments. Wow. So happy. So Jordan says that he actually disagrees with you on Ziyech. He thinks that there was a lot of opportunity to create, but the tactics were wrong. What do you think about that?
I think, this has come up a lot with Ziyech especially. I think we all know what a great player he is, right? Absolutely unbelievable, creative. We saw it at Ajax for years. I do agree that when we play Giroud, he is literally like the focal point, and every single attack goes through him, which does sort of narrow the passing lanes, if you like, for the likes of Hakim Ziyech. They can't play the ball left, right. Instead, they're going straight through the middle looking for Olivier every time. And I think there probably was an element to that in the Fulham game. You've only got to look at how many more chances we created, whether it was Cho, whether it was Werner, when Giroud went off, And I like Giroud's link-up play. If you look at all of our chances in the first half, or at least the majority of them, Giroud was involved at some point, whether he was taking the defender away, whether he was challenging for an aerial ball, or whether he was laying it off. So you know what you're going to get. With Giroud, you get static focal point of attack. You're going to get one-touch layoffs, flicks, and headers. Whereas if you take him out of the game, you're going to get players making runs into different channels and different angles, which for Ziyech is probably more of a dream. When you've got 3 or 4 players making forward runs behind the defence, it's a lot easier to pick one of them out. Look at the Morecambe goal, with Cho. He made that run from the left side right through the centre, and Ziyech found him with a perfect pass. Beautiful. So, I do agree. Yeah. I do agree there is an element of that.
Yeah, I think with Ziyech as well, he does take a lot. He does what's the right verb there? I don't know. Make a lot of crosses. He does a lot of crosses. My brain is getting so confused.
I don't even know what the word is. He crosses a lot.
But he, you know what I mean? Okay, perfect. He does cross a lot. And sometimes they don't always come up. Sometimes it's a little bit short or long, but we do see that he is able to calibrate it, and at least once during the game, he's going to get it right, and he could definitely be a game changer for Chelsea. I think recently he's coming back from injury. Let's not forget that he just kind of got thrown into that Man City side. I wouldn't have started him against Man City, and I think he still needs to just kind of get up to the pace of playing and match fitness again. But he's a really good player for me, game changer. And so let's move on to the starting 11 for Leicester. I think it's going to be a really interesting one. So obviously Mendy starts in goal, but then taking a look at the back 4, who are you putting in? Especially because we saw that Rudiger actually got the start over Zuma against Fulham, which I was absolutely shocked about. I'm not going to lie.
Yeah, I like Rudiger. I do. I know he's been costly in the past, but for me, him and Zuma, so similar in terms of the way they play. They're both very fast. They're both good in the air, but they're both capable of making that error that's going to cost you a game. We've seen it with Zuma. We've seen it with Rudiger. Zuma this season, I think, has been good. And the thing is, it's very difficult. Why would you change a defence after keeping a clean sheet? They're probably feeling great about themselves right now. Yes, it was Fulham, and for the large part of the game, it was a 10-man Fulham. but they kept a clean sheet. I actually thought from a personal level, Thiago Silva and Rudiger both had very good games. There was a lot of blocks that Rudiger made. And I feel like Rudiger would be better with somebody with Thiago Silva's experience next to him. So for me, I wouldn't now disrupt that back, the centre-back pair specifically. I would bring
so interesting.
Yeah, I would bring Reece James in for Aspi. As much as I love Azpilicueta and he is a Chelsea legend, admittedly, he's not the player he was 3 or 4 years ago. I think we all agree with that. And if Reece James is fit, given the pace that Leicester have, Reece James comes back in. And Ben Chilwell on the left. I love Ben Chilwell. I think he's been one of our better signings. I think he makes such a difference on that left-hand side. So, yeah, Reece James, Thiago Silva, Rudiger, Chilwell. For me. That's
very interesting because I was thinking, why are you disrupting the centre-back pairing of Thiago Silva and Zuma, because I didn't think that Zuma was necessarily that bad, like bad enough to get dropped at least. So I really don't know which way Lampard is going to go, because like you said, you could keep the same center back pairing, which if Rudiger is now starting ahead of Zuma, I would rather just stick with one center back pairing and not be chopping and changing it every Premier League game like we saw last season. I don't think that works for anybody. It doesn't help the goalkeeper, it doesn't help the defense, it doesn't help the center back pairing to gain any chemistry and understanding with each other. So I would just stick with one, like if it's not broken, don't fix it type thing. But I don't know what he's going to do, because then again, the games are in quick succession. Does he rest Thiago Silva because he just played 3 days ago? Or does he just play him and then give him a rest because we do have an FA Cup game? These are questions that Frank will have to answer. I don't know.
I wouldn't be surprised if we saw a centre-back pairing of Zuma and Rudiger. That reason being, Thiago Silva is not the fastest of centre-backs. Zuma and Rudiger both have pace, and so does Jamie Vardy if he's fit. So maybe Frank is going, okay, we'll fight pace with pace. We'll put our 2 fastest centre-backs at the back and hope that Jamie Vardy doesn't get in behind. That being said, I think Thiago Silva has been our best centre-back this season, so I really hope he plays. But like you say, the fixtures have come around really fast. We've seen Thiago Silva regularly have a rest after playing, 2 games in 1 week, or, a game when the next fixtures come in really fast. So, yeah, Rudiger and Zuma, whilst that would be very pacey and could counter the pace of Jamie Vardy and the likes of Harvey Barnes, but it would scare me. It would terrify me not to have Thiago Silva at the back.
Yeah, me too. I feel like in such a big game, especially against Leicester, you'd need his presence and his experience, because not only does he bring that, but he also makes the center back who plays next to him look a lot better. And I think he gives them more confidence as well, just to know, oh wait, hey, I have Thiago Silva next to me. Like, maybe if I don't get things 100% right, he's going to be there because he can read the situation and maybe bail me out if I make a mistake. So I feel that he gives confidence to whoever plays next to him, and that's why we're seeing Rudiger and Zuma play a lot better. I think a large majority of it is because of Thiago Silva's influence. Honestly, he's just a legend.
I'll tell you what's really scary.
About
what we've discussed so far is we're talking about potentially not playing Aspi, not playing Thiago Silva, not playing Jorginho. Where the hell are our leaders? Who is going to take the reins for the team? Those 3 are not on the pitch at the same time.
About that.
It's a scary thought.
So more reason to play Thiago Silva, I think. Yeah, just get him recovered as fast as possible. That's your only option, really, and then rest him when we play again in the FA Cup. Oh, somebody said Zuma and Christensen starting. I don't think Christensen is going to start. I think he's really dropped in the ranks.
Christensen terrifies me more than Kepa.
I don't know about that one.
I'll be really brutal with that one.
Oh my God. I need to clip that out. That's amazing.
I'm serious. Christensen literally terrifies me, and I've never been a fan. I've never understood, and this is not coming from a position of bias, actually. This is just coming from observations. I've seen a lot of hype because he's very tall, he's reasonably quick, and he's young. And that always brings a lot of hype around centre-backs. But I think all the way back to that Barcelona home leg, where in the Champions League, where we went out, he made the mistake and it went so under the radar. And ever since then, if you look at a lot of the goals Chelsea have conceded, somewhere, whether it was in the move before, whether it was not clearing the lines properly, whether it was some kind of mix-up, somewhere he's generally involved in a goal that we've conceded in a negative way. And I can't unsee it. And yes, maybe I am coming from a position of, okay, I've seen enough and I don't rate the guy. But like, and this brings us on to the Tamori conversation. I would rather Christensen leave than Tamori for sure. There we go.
Too.
That's a different conversation point.
That's another can of worms, honestly. Yeah, I haven't been impressed with Christensen, and I think that after the John Terry comments, where John Terry said, "Oh, he's a really great center back," and like if John Terry says that about somebody, you really take it seriously. But I just don't feel that he's really lived up to the hype. And I feel like we've been saying for a while, he's young. Like I don't think he's that young anymore. I feel like he should be playing better than he is. So for me, happy to part with Christensen in January or the summer. I don't think he's going to stay at Chelsea. And we can touch briefly on the Tamori thing. I thought that it was very weird that he just got dropped so randomly. And then he got injured and then he just couldn't get back into the team. He had a really bad game against Bournemouth, I think it was. And then just never came back. So
yeah,
I don't blame him.
I don't know if something's happened behind the scenes. Maybe, I don't know. Obviously, we're not there day in, day out on the training ground. He might be. I'm making assumptions because obviously I haven't seen anything, but I know Tamori is rated very highly. I really liked what I saw from him last season. Frank Lampard's also had a season with him at Derby, so Frank knows him better than most. And for all the people saying that they've got a really bad working relationship, I highly doubt. Again, I don't know, but I highly doubt that would be the case. Everything Tamori's had in his career has come from Frank Lampard. The loan spell at Derby, he put him into those senior games. He then brought him back to Chelsea, took the job, put him into those senior games. So all of the highlights in his career for Tamori have come with Frank Lampard in charge. So I don't think it's personal friction between those two. I just think there's something else going on behind the scenes. I don't know what it is.
Yeah, I know that him and Callum actually, I think the Athletic reported that they broke lockdown and that like Frank was upset about that. But I think like one of the main problems is just that it was a weird summer. We could buy a lot because other teams couldn't really buy, but that also meant that we really couldn't sell. So we're left with 5 center backs, all who are expecting to start and to get game time. And you had like Tamori was going to go out on loan, then he didn't because Rudiger was going to get sold or go out on loan, and then that fell apart, and then so they both ended up staying. It just creates like too many players for limited spaces. So I think like the loan makes sense for him. It's really unfortunate, but he needs to get game time. And yeah,
there's two things that really annoy me.
Go from
yeah, I've just seen the comment. Lampard said Tamori has a future at Chelsea, and I really hope he does. And I have no issue with the loan, him going out on loan to get some experience, especially at a top European club like AC Milan. But the first thing is, why didn't he play against Morecambe? That annoyed me a little bit. If you know a player is upset with lack of game time, you've got the perfect chance to play him. And secondly, if he has a future of Chelsea, take this option to buy for 26 million out of the loan. Yeah. Because if he has a future, you don't let a Premier League centre-back that is supposedly the future of a top six club leave for £26 million. Like,
I know. I was really shocked with that.
Weird.
Somebody said Tamori probably won't even be a starter at Milan. I honestly would be surprised if he would move to a loan just to not play or sit on the bench again. Like, I really do hope that he is going to be a starter at Milan, but I just hope the best for him, and we'll just have to see how that unfolds. But moving back to the starting 11 for Leicester. So we kind of have our back four. We both know that we definitely want Reece, Ben Chilwell, and Thiago Silva, and then that center back. I don't know if it's going to be Kurtzuma or Rudiger. I really have no idea which way it's going to go, honestly. So we did discuss that we thought 4-2-3-1 was better given the way that Leicester set up. So who's in that pivot for you?
On merit, first of all, Billy Gilmour. It's a risk, but with somebody next to him, I think he'd be absolutely fine. I have no reason not to trust Billy Gilmour. All I'm going on is his age and inexperience, which I think is super unfair on him. And I think he gets overlooked a lot because of that. I know he's had his injuries. but I think Frank trusts him. He's given no reason for Frank not to trust him. So Gilmour, and for me, the other one, even though he's in really bad form and he hasn't been great, is Kovacic, just because he is the one player that gives you legs. And with those Leicester players, they have a team that can run all over the park. They've got Ndidi and Yuri Tillemans in there, great midfield players, good engines. And I think Kovacic and Gilmour will give you that same energy. Even if Kovacic, the things he's trying, they're not coming off.
I know. I was going to say, like, what's happened with Kovacic? He was our player of the season last year, and it just feels like he's not even close to the levels that he was performing at. I don't know if it's something just within the team, but he just has not looked great. He hasn't looked great. I don't know if he, if we didn't have this conundrum of Conte not being fit, I wouldn't start him. I don't think he deserves to start, really, but with Conte not being fit, I think you probably have to give it to Kovacic because you need some sort of defensive player in that team. What do you think?
But then Lampard said he chose the Fulham team based on the Leicester game to a degree, which if he wanted Kovacic for the Leicester game, why didn't he substitute him off? Why did he bring Jorginho off? It makes me think that he's resting Jorginho for the Leicester game, and that panics me even more.
I really don't want to see Jorginho play against Leicester. I'm scared with Leicester's pace, like the amount of tactical fouls that man is going to have to make in order to stop them. I would be very, very nervous about that. Something that's interesting, I think you brought it up on a past stream, would be to see Mount play a little bit deeper so that you can also get somebody like Kai Havertz in as a 10. I don't think that Lampard is going to do it, but I think that Mount has learned a lot of defensive work. He's looked really strong, and I think he could look pretty good there because we do know that he's able to hit those like really long balls. He's able to defend. He's able to make passes in between the lines. But then again, I do like seeing him a little bit further up the pitch as well because we know that he can score goals and be a goal threat. So just something interesting, but I don't think that Frank is going to do it. What about you?
No, I don't think he will take that risk. And this lineup we're going through now is obviously based on our preferred 4-2-3-1 formation. We might not even see that either. We might go with the 4-3-3. The only reason I want the 4-2-3-1 is to protect the defense, right, as much as possible with Kante being out, and to free up whoever plays in that number 10 role, whether it's Kai Havertz, whether it's Mount, whether it was Ziyech, so you could get Cho and Pulisic in. I don't know, but yeah, I honestly have no clue. The lineup really surprised me for Fulham. I have no doubt it's going to surprise me again when we see it tomorrow.
Well, when I saw the lineup for Fulham, the only thing I could think to justify it was, well, we are playing Leicester in 3 days, so maybe he's just resting players for this Leicester game, and we're going to see basically a different team. So it's very interesting. And so let's move into that 10 spot. So who do you think starts there? Because if we're not starting Mount in that pivot, if we're starting Billy Gilmour and Kovacic, it's between really Mount, Kai, or you could play Ziyech and put somebody else on the wing. What do you think?
I think the way he's been playing recently, we cannot leave Mason Mount out of this team. I also don't think Frank will leave him out. I think he's the first player that he trusts. And with him being under the pressure that he's under, and the form of Mason himself, we're saying all about trust and this and that, but Mount has been Mr. Reliable so far. And obviously he come up with the winning goal in the Fulham game. So if he's not in the pivot, he has to be at the 10. I would love to see him dropped into the pivot so we could start Kai and see what Kai's got to offer without that defensive responsibility that he has to do in the 4-3-3.
Yeah.
I think if you tell him he's got a completely free role, that's when you'll see the best of Kai Havertz.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I was impressed with what we saw in the Morecambe game. Like, I know that it was just Morecambe, but, still playing against a side. And Kai Havertz, I thought, had a pretty good I didn't think it was a great game, but the last 20-30 minutes or so, I thought that he looked pretty strong. He was getting into those forward areas, and we saw it with the goal that he scored a really powerful header. I don't usually think of him as like such a powerful, strong player. I feel like sometimes he usually gets muscled off the ball a little too easily. But I was really impressed with what we saw. And I think one of the main reasons was because he was playing further up. He was playing a little bit more centrally, and he didn't have to worry or overthink about those defensive responsibilities. He wasn't as far back in the pitch as he was playing as an 8. So honestly, best case would be playing a pivot of Gilmore and Mount, because I don't think that Kovacic really deserves to start anyways. And then to give Kai some game time, because it could be a game that we really need him to create that space and to be that creative outlet and, help to pull the strings a little bit. So now looking at the attack, it gets like very interesting yet again. It's so difficult to choose these players. We have a lot to choose from, but who starts for you in attack?
For me, I will go with definitely Cho. Wherever you want to put Cho, whether you put him on the left or whether you put him on the right, Cho has to start this game. He has been so bright. I read a crazy stat that said out of the 8 goals that Chelsea have scored in their last 5 games, only 1 has happened when Cho wasn't on the pitch. He was on the pitch for the other 7, which when you consider he hasn't started other than the Morecambe game, he's come off the bench late in games. That is a crazy stat. That is an absolutely crazy stat.
That's
obviously, you think he come on against Arsenal, he come on against City and got the goal. That is mad. But yeah, Cho has to start.
Changer.
Yeah, and I think Pulisic, we know he's in bad form. The reason I'm going to start Ziyech, so I'm going Cho on the left, Ziyech on the right. Sorry, that does mean Christian misses out. The only reason being is that if we have a sub to bring on, I would rather it be Pulisic than Ziyech because of his pace. So when defenders get tired and if we're able to wear them down, I would rather inject pace into the game than Ziyech's creativity, because I think what you get from Ziyech, you could probably get something similar from Kai in terms of, those intricate passes. But what you can't get is pace. You either have it or you don't. And Pulisic has it. So
that's a really good point. And, I don't think that Pulisic is playing that well. We've talked about that. So maybe if he does get benched, it's going to light a fire under his belly, so to speak. And, we saw last season that he was on the bench and then he came back and scored a hat-trick versus Burnley. So I hope that he just takes it really well. And who better to bring on as a super sub than Christian Pulisic? I mean, he's just incredible. So I totally agree. I think that Callum needs to start. There's absolutely no excuse, no reason for him not to be playing this game. And then I would play Ziyech on the right. Now, looking at striker, we have 3 very different strikers, very different strengths and weaknesses. Some are in form, some aren't. And I think one of the main issues is that, if Timo isn't on form, do you start him and try to give him a little bit of confidence, or is that just too much of a risk and you start Giroud or Tammy instead?
I'm going to rule Giroud out of this. I do not start Olivier Giroud. I thought he was way off the pace. I'm a big Giroud fan, by the way. I think this season he's been the best striker at the club. So for me to say a bad word about Olivier Giroud is tough. But yeah, in that Fulham game, he didn't offer us enough. We didn't even create a single chance for him, really. And then you've got the debate of, do you bench Timo again for the second game in a row and then really kick his confidence? And then if you start Timo, what the hell is Tammy thinking? What the hell has he got to do to get a game? So for me, Tammy starts. I think he starts on merit. If you want to play Werner, you have to play him out wide, or he has to accept that he's on the bench. And we've already discussed who's playing out wide, which is Cho and Ziyech. So there is no place in the starting 11 for Timo, and he's going to have to suck it up and find some form.
I felt so bad for him when it showed like the picture of him with his head down and Lampard's arm was around him, and it just totally broke my heart to pieces. You can tell how much he wants to be in form. I just feel so bad, honestly.
We've had so many strikers over the past 4 or 5 years where it's like exhausting. Like willing them on is just so exhausting. We've had it. Even go back to Torres. You're like, come on, Fernando, this is your time. And it just never was. And then we had it with Morata. You're like, Alvaro, this time. And then he would do one thing amazing. And then for the next 10 games, be absolutely non-existent.
Yeah.
And now we're here again with Timo.
Yeah. It's just like a striker curse, honestly. The worst part about Morata was that he actually started really well, and then he just completely fell off. Yeah, it's like a Chelsea striker curse. That there's rumors about Erling Haaland getting linked to Chelsea, and he's a prolific striker. What if he comes to Chelsea and the striker curse hits again? I don't know. But what do you feel about that rumor?
I think it's logical because to be a top team, you have to have 2 or 3 great strikers. I think it's going to be a 1 in, 1 out job. I think Giroud's going to leave. And if you're going to replace Giroud with Haaland, fantastic. That's an improvement. Let's be real, especially going forward. But if I'm Tammy Abraham, I'm thinking, what the hell are they doing? They've signed 2 new strikers. I'm still at the club. Am I the main guy? They gave me the number 9 shirt, and they've gone and signed 2 new strikers. If I'm Timo, I'm probably thinking, okay, that's pretty cool. Whether I play wide on the left or whether I play through the middle, Haaland is going to, score goals for us. He's going to teach me a lot. And obviously they were in the Bundesliga together too. So we could potentially have a front 3 of like Kai Havertz, Timo Werner and Haaland if we're going to play a 4-3-3 that all come from the Bundesliga, But for me, I would certainly welcome Haaland from a selfish point of view. I just fear about what it would do to the mentality of someone like Tammy.
Yeah, no, absolutely. And we know that Tammy hasn't signed a new contract. He has, I think, still 2 years left on his contract. I don't blame him for not signing. He's playing his cards right, because if the club goes out and signs Haaland in the summer, then if I were Tammy, I definitely wouldn't sign a new contract. So really interesting point there. Somebody goes, we need Costa. We know that Diego Costa is out on free transfer. I freaking love Diego Costa. I have a funny story about this. Right before lockdown, like last year, I went to a game at the Wanda and Diego Costa got subbed on. So I started singing like, Diego, Diego. And nobody said anything when he came on. I just had all of these Atletico Madrid supporters just staring at me as if I was so crazy. I was like, oh my God, this is so embarrassing.
Oh no, you've got to be proud of that. That's a dub. You have to take that win. Yeah. That's on them. If they're not going to sing with you, that's a them problem.
I was like, do people not see? Like, I love Diego Costa. If we get him on a free, like whatever, I would. If you have him as a third choice,
I want to
really
lock Tammy in a room with Diego and let them fight their way out. And I want to just to teach Tammy, because I really want Tammy to succeed. But what I'm seeing at the moment is Tammy being too nice. He's a big guy, right? He's a tall guy. I want to see him bully some defenders. I really do, like Diego did. Yeah. If I'm a centre back for Leicester, and I see Tammy's name on the team sheet, I'm thinking, okay, he's a good player, but I can out muscle him. I can knock him off the ball. If I saw Diego Costa, I'm probably like taking a big gulp of breath, putting on some shin pads on my arms and my chest and hoping for the best. But yeah, I want to see Tammy just get nasty. I want to see him get nasty.
Yeah, we're missing that grit. I just loved how Diego Costa would just like make an absolute scene and get mad. And if you try to like rile him, that played into him. He wanted you to do that, and he would just go and score. Honestly, I miss the man so much. He's just such a character, like such a good character for the dressing room as well. So I would definitely take him on a free. Like, why not? I'm in Madrid. I'll just ship him right over, like easy.
I'll pay for it. I'll contribute to his wages. Let's start a GoFundMe and get Diego back. I would do that.
I think a lot of people would. At least I hope so. So going back to the Leicester game, what are your score predictions? How are you feeling? You feeling confident? Not so confident?
Not so confident. I think the score will be 1-1, which in normal circumstances is a point gained, right? I would normally take a point away to Leicester and think, okay, that's good for a team that's chasing the top 4. But like I said, given the fact we had such a bad run, I think we need to put a couple of wins back to back to build on this. So I would really love the win, but I honestly think a score draw is coming. I think there'll be goals.
I really, really want to win, but I feel that it's going to be a difficult game, and 1-1 doesn't sound far off, but I'm definitely hoping for that Chelsea win. So I'll just give a couple more minutes to see if anybody has any last minute questions, like get them in now. Oh, somebody goes Elizabeth to start.
Probably have a better conversion rate than Timo right now.
I do have the EH. I tweeted that today, that like the power of EH initials, because it's like Eden Hazard and Erling Haaland and then Elizabeth Eleanor.
How many KWs? There's nothing going on.
I got really lucky. Like I've never seen this initial in my life, and now it's popping up all over the place. So we've got a transfer question. Do you think we'll sign anybody this January? I don't know. I would be surprised if we did, after having such a big summer window. And I think January is historically a difficult time to sign players. Somebody like Rice, who we know is on the radar of the Chelsea board and of Frank Lampard, I don't think that West Ham would let him go mid-season. Absolutely not. So I don't think we are going to sign anybody. What about you, Kieran?
I think we need to. I think we need a midfield player with legs. What we're seeing is, Jorginho struggling, Kante, as he's getting older, getting more injuries, missing more games. So I think we need to look to the future. Whether we do that in January, I'm not sure. I think the fact that we've had such a stumbling first half of the season will probably mean that Roman and Marina put the reins on the spending just to see how the season plays out. Or it could have the complete opposite effect, and they can go, we need top 4 desperately, have some more cash. I mean, it could go either way, right? I would love to see Declan Rice come in. I don't think West Ham are going to let their captain go, like you said, halfway through the season.
Yeah, and that's the thing. I wouldn't want to sign just anybody now if we have the chance of signing Declan Rice in the summer.
And one thing we've
to just
completely overlooked, I saw it in the comments earlier, Ross Barkley would be perfect right now. Like, we forget that he's out on loan. We've got Ampadu that I've just seen mentioned and Ross Barkley, both out on loan. I would rather have both of those over Jorginho right at this moment. I'm a Jorginho fan. I think he's a great player.
100%. 100%. I don't know if we can recall Ross Barkley from Villa. I don't know how easy that would be, but if we could do it, definitely. I was actually really surprised that we let him go out on loan. Because we let him go out, Ruben Loftus-Cheek go out, Ethan Ampadu go out. Ruben Loftus-Cheek is another one that if he were fit, he would be absolutely perfect for this side, like exactly what Chelsea need, honestly. I really hope that he gets back to that like 18-19 level that we saw him, because he's such a good player. And Chelsea fans are starting to forget about him. It makes me sad. I'm just scrolling through the comments to see. Somebody said Frank got asked about January transfer. It seems we're not signing anybody. And somebody else is saying we need a winger. I do think that we need somebody as a fourth choice winger, because we've seen that our wingers are really injury prone, and they were all out at the same time. At that point, your team gets very, very thin. So I would like to see somebody, or even just somebody from the academy, maybe promoted.
Yeah, that's a super hard situation, because signing somebody that's good enough that agrees to be a fourth choice winger is going to be really hard to convince them to come. Do you know what I mean? So like they're going to look at that and go, oh, they've got Pulisic, they've got Hudson-Odoi, where am I going to fit?
Maybe if we can promote somebody, but I don't know who that person would be necessarily. But thank you guys for the nice comments. It's so nice to see, honestly. I was nervous about my first stream, but you guys have made it so fun and enjoyable. So I'm really, really happy with how it's turned out and how it's gone. So with that, I think we're going to end it. Kieran, thank you so much for joining me on my first
thanks for having
stream. You have been absolutely brilliant. If you have anything to plug, go away and tell the people where they can find you.
Best place to find me for Chelsea meltdowns and happiness and sadness would be Twitter. I've put my @ on the screen, so @KizzleKick7. Go drop me a follow on Twitter. That'd be cool.
Cool. Well, until the next stream, I'm Elizabeth. Thank you so much for joining and tuning in. And let's go, Chelsea.